All right, so let's get rolling here. Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining our webinar today. My name is Jonathan Rudolph. I am the Vice President of Marketing here at Vicon, and today I'm going to be introducing two powerful new cameras. First, our awesome new multi-sensor. It's designed to deliver clear images and make installation as easy as humanly possible here. And next, I'm going to be showing you our thermal biometric kiosk. Now, this is a really powerful thermal checkpoint with biometric and access control capabilities. So you're going to see tremendous value in both of these products momentarily. All right, so let's get started with the multi-sensor. Now, like I said, this is a really awesome camera loaded with tons of features to help you simplify things like your installation and maintenance. You can streamline your whole surveillance operation with this, and it's always going to deliver this crystal clear image day or night, 24/7. Now, before I get ahead of myself, what is a multi-sensor? So, multi-sensor is a single camera powered by a single Ethernet PoE cable, and it's comprised of four sensors. So here you can see three of them in this image, and these four sensors work together to ensure that you get a crystal clear image edge to edge for these wide coverage areas. So you can do anything from 180 degrees to 270 to even 360, you're always going to get crystal clear images the whole way. All right, so these cameras have three different options. You have the 8 megapixel, 20 megapixel, or 32 megapixel options available. So what that means is for the 8 megapixel, that's actually comprised of four 2 megapixel sensors. The 20 is now comprised of four 5 megapixel sensors, and the 32 are going to be 4K or 8 megapixel sensors there. I mentioned this briefly before, but what makes this camera really stand out is the ease of installation. And I'll dig into this a little bit further in detail, but anyone who's ever installed a traditional one can really breathe a sigh of relief. All that pain and suffering you probably associate with multi-sensors is non-existent with this camera. You'll be blown away. So beyond that, we have some really incredible imaging sensors here. You have powerful lenses on the camera to ensure you always get these perfect images, like I said, day or night, 24/7. Now, I think the Starlight is a really great example of this. I haven't actually seen this feature in many other multi-sensors, so I think this is something that really stands out on this product. Now, Starlight, and again, I'll show this to you soon, but Starlight delivers a clear color image even in night. And that's great for picking up those forensic details that you would probably miss in an IR view. You can imagine being able to see, a suspect is wearing a yellow shirt or a red jacket, details that you wouldn't be able to pick up in traditional IR. Now, beyond that, we also have, tons of really important features in this camera. So you can see, we have this H.265 compression and our smart encoding to reduce that bandwidth and storage. Now, you'll see that in a lot of Vicon cameras, but I think it's particularly significant in this product. So you can imagine running four 8 megapixel streams at once from a single camera is going to use up a lot of bandwidth and storage. If you use this compression and encoding correctly, you can ensure that you're not using unnecessary space and bandwidth, and you're only getting these exceptional images when you need them most. Now, beyond that, this camera lives up to that durability and strength that you've probably come to associate with Vicon's products. So you have IP66 for all that nasty weather and IK10 for the impact and vandal resistance. And beyond that, of course, these cameras are ONVIF compliant. So that means that, you can use it with pretty much any open platform VMS, not just Vicon's Valeris. But you could also use it with things like a Milestone and Genetec, and you're gonna have a really seamless experience. So even if you're not a Valeris user, you're gonna find tremendous value in this camera. Now, lastly, I just want to cover this briefly, and again, this will go into more detail shortly. But we've included our standard analytics package in these cameras for more proactive surveillance. So these include things like line crossing and intrusion detection to make sure you get alarms and alerts when you need them when these critical events occur. Now, full disclosure, in the springtime, we'll be updating and adding even more sophisticated analytics to these cameras. The chipset is capable of handling quite a bit of processing. So we're going to be releasing a firmware update around the spring of 2021 to give you even more power to these cameras. All right, so I know I've already said this, but I can't reiterate enough. The value of this camera really starts at the installation. So if you've ever installed, like I said, a traditional multi-sensor, you probably know the pain. You have to climb up a ladder onto a cold roof, wherever you've mounted this thing. And you have to adjust each sensor just a little bit to get that alignment just right. So you're moving it slightly to the left, slightly to the right, up a little bit, down a little bit. It's an absolutely painful, miserable process. Now, this camera eliminates that entire thing. All you have to do is you mount it, you plug in that single Ethernet, and you are off to the races. So all the configuration from then on is done through your PC remotely. You can control each sensor individually with the PTZ controls like you would a traditional PTZ camera, or you can leverage the built-in presets. So this actually comes with a 360 or a 270 degree view preset. You just have to click a button and it'll move all the sensors into position correctly. If you can also configure your own customized presets too. So whether it's a 180 degree view or a more complex view that's very specific to your application, you can make those presets. So all you have to do is click a button in the back end of the camera and your sensors will move into the correct position automatically. All right, so the proof is in the pudding. So let's take a look at a demo actually here. So you can see, right at the top, you have full pan, tilt, zoom functionality right at the top there, and then right below that you have the presets here. So you can see the 360 or 270. I just clicked the 270 here, and you can see the cameras moving into position from the screen itself. Now, here's what it looks like from the outside. You see all the sensors moving into their position. And as they move forward, you can see they find their position. The last step is to get that focus all worked out. So just be patient here as it moves into that focus. Just take a moment longer here. All right, so now you see, everything looks good, but that last one's facing a wall, right? That's obviously not ideal. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna open up this view, select that camera, and manually tilt that one all the way down. All right, so now we're looking at our loading dock. All right, so now we've got a great view of our loading dock. We have full coverage of the area, and it took, what, 2.5 minutes to set that up at best, versus what would probably normally take, an hour or more of tiny tweaks, configuring, getting up a ladder and all of that. All right, so I know I've talked installation to death. Beyond that, this camera is really engineered for this exceptional performance. I keep saying it day or night, 24/7. So it's powered by a Sony Starlight imaging chip and a 3.1 to 10 millimeter lens with a 3.2 times optical zoom. So you always know you're going to get these crystal clear images, again, day or night. The camera itself offers a full 360-degree range of IR coverage up to 131 feet away. So despite having that Starlight performance, you still get a fantastic IR coverage for an even darker scene. And we also offer a suite, like I said, of our standard analytics. We have line cross, line count, intrusion, motion detection, area counting to count how many people enter an area, and tampering detection. And like I said, we're currently developing more advanced analytics that will be available in a firmware update in the spring of 2021. All right, so I'm going to show you a live demo here, and the point of this is to show you, the 4 sensors working together in our 2 megapixel model here. So I will press play down here, and you'll see the truck pull out from the bottom right, and you'll see, how seamless this coverage is. So in this scenario, we have 180 degrees of coverage, and then it's looking down into that driveway here. So hopefully the internet, the network here is giving you the clarity here, but you should see a really crystal clear image coming out of these 2 megapixel sensors. And again, you'll see how seamless this coverage area really is with the multi-sensor. All right, so let's take a look at the Starlight capabilities, right? So it's hard to believe in this scene, but traditional cameras would all be in black and white IR mode right now. So you wouldn't see the details like the red jacket, the light blue sweater. So, you can imagine a scenario, let's say they're trying to rob this car. You can say, hey, the suspects were wearing a red sweatshirt or a red jacket and a light blue sweatshirt. Kind of forensic details you would absolutely not get in a black and white scene. All right, so next I'm going to give you a peek into these analytics so you can see how those work. In this instance, I'm going to be showing this in Valeris. So some of these features might be unique to Valeris. I'm not entirely sure, but you'll see, as they cross the line, I defined a line in the background, they trigger an alarm. And what's happening here is that an event is sent from the camera to the VMS, and you tell the VMS how to respond to that event. So in this case, I had it create an alarm, but you can also configure it to do things like send you a push notification on your cell phone. And it's also going to save, if your VMS supports it, it's going to save this event to a database so you can easily go back and say, hey, show me every time there's a line cross event on this camera, and you can go back and you can find that super easily, super quickly. All right, so lastly, I just want to show you the mounts and accessories available for this camera. I won't dig into gore detail on these, but I just want to illustrate that we have mounts available for most applications, most use cases here. So these are really easy to install, really easy to get, and it's really easy to make this camera adapt to your system here. All right, so now let's move on to our thermal biometric kiosk. Now, for those familiar, this joins our current thermal body temperature camera in our thermal detection technology. But this is a much more cost-effective option than the previous unit. It's a fraction of the price. So despite that, it still packs quite the punch with some powerful new features to provide you more long-term value, even after, COVID is hopefully a thing of the past. So first, I'm going to review some of the features and benefits of the kiosk, and then I'll do a little more of a detailed review of our two systems so you can kind of understand which one is better suited for your operation here. All right, so again, at the core of this product is thermal body temperature detection. So, I know COVID vaccinations are well underway, but I still think this is going to be a major concern for businesses for months to come. And frankly, I think as time goes on, we're going to be thinking about illnesses in the workplace in a much different way. So, there's going to be value to this, even after hopefully COVID is a distant memory here. But the goal here is, for businesses, you really need to build that confidence, confidence from your customers that they're safe and protected, confidence from your employees, all of that. And, a COVID outbreak can cost you a fortune. You would have to shut down for, it's 10 to 14 days, I guess, depending where you are. You have to deep clean and disinfect, not to mention that whole, potential for PR disaster. So the expense to your business for, having to shut down far exceeds the cost of getting, this thermal kiosk here. So, like our thermal body temperature camera, this is designed to help you safeguard your facilities so you can isolate those potentially at-risk people for further testing before they make contact with your students and teachers and patients and customers, your colleagues, and really anyone there. All right, so this camera is designed to accurately find faces, detect those body temperatures, and other important factors like whether that person's wearing a mask. You get rapid read times here, so under 100 milliseconds with incredible accuracy of 0.9 degrees Fahrenheit. So that means you can kind of keep that line moving very quickly. It's not the same as someone standing there with a thermometer gun, scanning your forehead. You're going to move a lot faster than that. Plus, you're not required to have someone there to man and operate this station. So, you can get a variety of these very important alerts and alarms, from the high temperature detection to those no mask alarms, and it'll all be saved to a database. So you can easily keep track of those various events. You can hunt them down, you can search for them and find them again later if you need to. Now, what's really exciting is that this kiosk has a weakened output. So that means you can leverage those advanced facial recognition, temperature detection, and mask rules to trigger those access control events. So you set the conditions in the back end of the camera. If someone needs a mask to enter, if no mask is detected, they will not be granted entry via that access control. So, we're still fine tuning some of these features, so I don't have them to show you right now, but they should be developed by the time that we start shipping this product in March. but they are, really what I think are going to be one of the most incredible values of this camera here. Now, lastly, unlike our thermal body temperature camera, which needed our VTS software for alerts and that facial recognition feature, this kiosk can actually be used as an absolute standalone product. And what I mean by that is that you can configure the rules and events through the camera's firmware, set it all up with your access control, and that's it. You just leave it. You don't need to send it to VTS or any sort of video management system to get the value out of the camera. I guess, that said, the VTS still provides that great user interface and really makes recording and searching much easier. So I still recommend using it, but it's completely optional. It's not required at this point. All right, so additionally, very deep in this product is a deep AI facial recognition technology that works with that temperature detection. So it all starts up here with the infrared thermal camera at the top, right? So that's what reads the body temperature. Now below it, you'll find the LEDs here. So you have two LED face illumination lights and one IR face illuminator. And what these do is they give you that perfect, well, they give the camera that perfect view of the face, so they can ensure that incredible 99% plus facial recognition rate that we mentioned on the right here. Now below that is a powerful dual camera system. So one of them provides a color image here, and that's basically what you see on the display, right? And the other one provides a black and white biometric image. So what happens is that these two cameras work together to provide not only that incredible accuracy, but also that amazing intelligence to catch things like face spoofing. What I mean when I say face spoofing is that if you were to walk up to this camera and just put like a photograph of yourself in front of the camera, it's going to know that that is not a person. It's going to detect that it's flat, the temperature's weird, all of that. So it's not going to grant entry on based on a photograph. So you really have to be a real life person that makes sure that this is extremely secure here. All right, so now I'm going to show you just a quick demo of this this kiosk in action. So you'll see here, I'll press play first. So as Sean comes into the screen, you see he's very quickly detected. You can see his name on the right. You can see his temperature there. Similarly, Vinod will walk in, incredibly fast response time, get the temperature, his name is recognized. Now, here you'll see Ash walks in with no mask. So you get a no mask detection on the interface itself. He's getting an auditory input, please wear a mask, and then he's approved once he puts it on. Now, lastly, we have Aaliyah here. She walks in, she comes in with a high temperature, so she is not allowed entry. So at this point, she's going to, go off to the side, and depending on the operation, she'll either get further screening or really clearly, she should probably go see a doctor here. One other thing I just want to note is that you can see here on the right, Ash is recognized whether he has a mask or not. So again, that has that advanced facial recognition that is far superior even to my own laptop right now that can never recognize me with a mask on. All right, so now I just want to take you through, another perspective here, right? So we've all just seen, what the operator sees, but, what does the person being scanned see? This is very critical. If there's any ambiguity whatsoever, people are going to wander around confused. So, it's really critical that you have a very clear interface, both on the screen and clear audio input. So you'll see here, Aaliyah walks in. You get a please wear a mask warning on the screen. There's also an auditory output that says, please put on your mask. All right, so you see that. So I'm gonna just go back and play it here again. I had the audio turned off so you can hear the actual input. Scroll by, there we go.
Please wear a mask.
All right, so you hear the audio input. Similarly,
abnormal body temperature.
Detection for a high temperature. You get an audio output. You have the red on the screen. It'll say abnormal temperature, and you're off. Now, lastly, just for good measure, here's what happens when someone successfully goes through. She gets a welcome and approved, and she's allowed entry here. All right, so let's compare this to our existing thermal body temperature camera. So For those of you unfamiliar with the product here on the right, this is a very sophisticated thermal body temperature detection device. It's designed to rapidly capture body temperatures for up to 16 people at a time. So that's actually a great place to start with the core difference here. So the kiosk is designed for a single person at a time as opposed to 16. So you can imagine a scenario in which you have a queue of people, they enter one at a time, 6 feet apart, get their face scanned, get approved, move forward. So this is really for use cases with like low traffic controlled entrances. You can think like employee entrances at or low traffic retail settings. Now, the thermal body temperature, on the other hand, is designed for those less organized, more expansive entries, like a busy lobby or a school entrance, places basically where you have more faces spread across a larger area. Now, on a similar note, it really just the kiosk just scans around, about 4 feet maximum, whereas the thermal body temperature camera can scan at much further distances. And I think this speaks to the same use cases I just mentioned before, low traffic controlled entrances versus those high traffic uncontrolled entries. So one of the most important distinctions is actually the use of our black body calibration tool. If you don't know what that is, I don't blame you. It's kind of obscure if you're not in this space. So what that is, it's actually a piece of equipment that produces a consistent temperature for that thermal body temperature camera. And it uses that consistent temperature point as a reference point. So if a cool breeze comes through, the camera will have that black body to reference a stable temperature, ensuring that breeze doesn't impact the thermal readings. Now, the kiosk does not have a black body to reference. So it's important that when you're installing them that you have to consider those environmental factors. You can't just like put it in front of the front door in winter, right? That blast of cold air when someone walks in is going to impact the reading. Similarly, you don't want to put it in front of like a heater vent or anything like that. So you always have to install this in a very controlled environment to ensure that you have that consistent and effective reading here. Now, I think realistically for most companies, this won't be a huge hurdle. If you do need that extra layer of protection or you need to have this in a more environmentally diverse scenes, then maybe the thermal body temperature camera is best for you. But I think, 80% or more companies out there are probably well suited for the kiosk. They can have a controlled area to manage this. Now, next we have the facial recognition facet. Now, I kind of alluded to this, but I really want to hit this home. The thermal kiosk does facial recognition on the device itself. Now, the thermal body temperature camera also has facial recognition, but it's only through that BTS software. It's through external software. And that may not sound like much of a difference at the outset, but the implications are actually huge. So first and foremost, that means that the camera, the kiosk can perform these facial recognition functions on its own. It doesn't need any additional software. So again, it's a very standalone product. Secondly, and this is really what powers the access control integration, the camera performs the facial recognition on the device and immediately sends that signal to the weakened output, right? So there's no middleman or additional software layer to worry about. It's a direct connection. There's no additional point for potential failure there, right? Now, I'm going to breeze past these last 3 points here. So the on-viv support, that means that the thermal kiosk does not integrate with like an open platform BMS like, Valeris or Milestone or anything like that. I think realistically, most people aren't going to need that level of integration with their surveillance and video management system anyway. So I don't anticipate this being a huge thing. But the thermal body temperature camera, since it is a more sophisticated camera with thermal and optic technology, it does integrate with that Valeris significantly better. So, it'll get all those events, the high temperature events and things like that will be sent to your VMS. And, in terms of the response time and temperature accuracy, I think both of those kind of speak to the use cases I mentioned it earlier. So, the thermal body camera obviously needs a much faster response time when it's reading 16 faces at a time, right? These are rapidly moving, they're not stopping to get detected necessarily. So it needs that faster response time. In the use cases in which you'd be using a thermal kiosk, 100 milliseconds or less is gonna be, it's still phenomenal performance. And that's really all you're gonna need in that scenario. All right, so let's take a look at the various mounting options available for the thermal kiosk. First of all, it comes with the wall mount or a pendant mount. It actually comes with both. So you can just, mount it to a wall if you want, or you can, using this pendant mount, you can mount it to these stands that we have available. So we have the floor stand for the pendant mount, which is a little bit taller. You can adjust the angle of view and everything on there, whereas the floor stand for the wall mount, it looks perhaps a little bit more aesthetically pleasing, but a little bit less flexible in terms of viewing angles here. And of course, we have a desk mount. If you already have a surface or something at the ideal height, you can just put that on there. It makes it a little more mobile and easier to move around the office if needed. Now, in terms of installation heights, we don't have a hard and fixed height for you to install it to. I would highly recommend that you keep it within the range of these floor stands we offer. So that's 53 to 62 inches tall. But if you have abnormally tall people in your office or something like that, you might want to mount it a little bit higher if you're doing a wall mount. So it really depends on the application. As long as someone's face is well within the viewport of the interface there, they should be read with great accuracy. All right, so just to wrap things up here, I hope that I've given you a solid overview of why these cameras are such an enormous benefit in today's surveillance operations, right? So if you take away anything from the multi-sensor, I just want to reiterate, this couldn't be any easier to install. This saves you and your customers a ton of time and money right from the outset. So beyond that, you have these, powerful, exceptional imagery. You have the Starlight. You have these advanced analytics coming in the spring. And this camera effectively delivers 4 powerful cameras in a single package with a single IP drop. The value for these cameras is tremendous. Now, for the thermal kiosk, I know right now its core service is to help organizations like yours safeguard your facilities against the threat of COVID. And I have the feeling that we're going to be worried about all illnesses for some time, illnesses in the workplace. So you're still going to want these powerful features around. So but even if you're not so worried about measuring temperatures forever, you'll continue to find tremendous value in the biometric capabilities and access control output, right? So, this can actually become a very effective and powerful tool in your access control arsenal. So in terms of availability, we'll be shipping the 8 megapixel, that's the one with the 2 megapixel sensors, in March. The 20 megapixel is targeted for April, and the 32 in May. For the thermal kiosks, we'll be shipping in March. But for both these products, you can contact your RSM at any time. You can place an order. If they are available sooner, we'll make sure you get them as soon as humanly possible. All right, so with that, I'm going to pause for a second, take a sip of water. Please feel free to ask any questions, and I will be back in just a second to answer these. All right, so first question I have here is for the multi-sensor. So does it have a stitched view? So what I understand about stitched views is, you'd basically be able to see all 4 of those cameras as a single elongated view. And the short answer is no. We do not support stitched views at this time. I'm not sure if it's on the roadmap. I will follow up with an email afterwards to discuss that. But I think that was a really good question. Let's see, let me look at a couple others. All right, so can you raise the, all right, can you raise the thermal kiosk stands? No, even with the pendant mount, you cannot elevate it further. Like I think I mentioned, you can tilt it up and down for your viewpoint, but you can't raise it. It doesn't have that telescoping technology. And just for clarity, the mount that connects to the wall mount does not have even that flexibility to adjust left and right there either. All right, so here's another good question. So do these cameras support unviv PTZ commands? So the answer is yes. So if you go into like Volaris, for example, you can control each sensor independently through those through the standard PTZ commands that you would have with a traditional PTZ camera. So you can move each sensor left and right, up and down, things like that. Currently, it does not have built-in functionality for those presets within Volaris, so you can't hit the 270 or the 360. But it is on the roadmap, and it's going to be a little while before that. But I think for most people, they don't need to control those through Volaris. You'd be just configuring them. You probably don't want them to move too frequently, and you can actually set schedules within the firmware. So it moves to a 270 during the day and maybe a 360 at night, however you need to configure it. So you do have that level of flexibility, just not through Volaris. All right. So I see one or two in here. I'm gonna have to actually talk to the engineering. So what's gonna happen is I'm gonna send out an email in the next couple of days here with answers to any questions I don't get to right now, because there's a couple that are actually pretty sophisticated questions. So let me just do one more. So this one's asking about the spoofing in the camera and some of our testing. So I think the core of the question is, how accurate is the anti-spoofing? In our testing, it's been really accurate. It's been fantastic. So unfortunately, I didn't prepare any footage for it for this webinar. So what I'm going to do is when I send out that email, I'm going to send you some clips of that in action. So I'll show you a few. So there's some clips where I tried to trick the camera into thinking that I was wearing a mask when I wasn't, right? So I put my hand over my face or put something else to obscure my face that wasn't a mask, and it was actually incredible, how good it was at detecting that I was trying to even just fudge a mask, right? Much less if I just put a photograph up to it. So keep an eye out for that email. I'm going to address the rest of the questions in there, and I'll send a link. We'll put it on YouTube or something, so you can actually see some of our testing. So you can actually see some of these amazing capabilities that we were able to test, and I want to give you that full transparency. So keep an eye out for that. Like I said, it should be out in a couple of days here. If I didn't get to your question, if I didn't answer it, keep an eye out for your email or in your email, and I will get back to you as soon as I can. All right. So with that, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thank you again, everyone, for joining. I hope that was very informative. Keep an eye out for the answers to these questions. And like I said, we'll probably do a deeper dive into these cameras in the coming weeks, a more technical delving into these cameras, so you can see some of the more technical details if you're into that level of detail. But I hope this gave you a great overview of how these cameras perform and how powerful they really are and how much they can improve your operation here. So thank you again, everyone. Have a great afternoon. All right, bye now.